Namaskar. Like to welcome you all on behalf of Independent Research Ethics Society, AYUSH Samriddhi International Webinar Series at milestone of 2472. Thank you. We are grateful to you for your overwhelming support, mentorship and guidance, due to which we have been able to conduct 905 webinars in recent 365 days. Thank you. Thank you again for your guidance. I am really grateful to respected Sri Anil Johri ji, ex-CEO, National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies, New Delhi. Welcome, sir. Welcome. You are our
Namaskar.
You are our inspiration, sir. Sri N.K. Kansara ji. Welcome, sir. Principal Consultant, Yoga Certification Board, YCB, New Delhi. Welcome. Ms. Shobha Hegde ji, Accreditation Expert, associated with UNFCC, NABCB, and NABL, Mumbai. Welcome, madam. Welcome. As we are conducting this webinar for the benefit of the society, our subjects are multidimensional, variety. Just now we are discussing on accreditation. After this, today we are celebrating Dance and Movement Therapy Day. That is also therapy. And then next topic. So without wasting much time, I would like to hand over the stage to Sri Anil Johri ji. He is my guide. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Namaskar, Dr. Sharma. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका. Thanks a lot for inviting me and some of my colleagues who are here. Probably the first webinar in which there is no Ayush expert. We are all novices in Ayush, but we have some expertise to offer to Ayush. So we'll try to explain to you how that expertise can help Ayush, hopefully, globally. So this is how we are here. And since you had said you wanted to celebrate World Accreditation Day, which is usually on 9th of June, and you did get in touch with me, but I was traveling in Italy at the time. So I told you, when I come back, I can join you. So thank you for deferring the program to 13th to enable me to join in. Now I'm back home in Delhi. So what I would do is first I'll make a presentation which will explain to you people who are all experts in Ayush, generally speaking. I can see a few who are from my kind of background also. What accreditation we are talking about and how does it help? Across sectors, it works across sectors. So how does it help? So let me share my screen. Can you see the presentation now on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Let me also. So it is now fully visible to everybody. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. Great, sir.
Yes, sir.
And is it moving also?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. Sometimes these things don't work as well as we think. So I'm going to explain to you what accreditation we are talking about, because accreditation is used in various ways in various sectors, and how it operates globally and how it can help Ayush sector. I'll end up with reference to Ayush. We'll start with the basics of accreditation. So let me start straight away with the definition of accreditation that we are talking about. And this is the definition which comes from ISO standard. ISO 17000 is the standard, which says third party attestation, which means independent. Third party always means independent. First party is the manufacturer or the service provider. Second party is the buyer or the user of service. And third party is somebody who has no interest in these two, who has no interest in this transaction and is independent of these two people. So that's called third party. Related to a conformity assessment body. I think conformity assessment is simple English, assessment of conformity, a body which assesses conformity. conveying formal demonstration of its, and there are three pillars. One is competence. If it is a inspection body, if it is a certification body, if it is a testing lab, we need it to be competent in that sector. If you're testing electrical iron, one kind of competence is needed. If you're testing food, another kind is needed. If you're testing Ayush products, another kind is needed. Second is impartiality. And because we are doing evaluation, we are inspecting or we are certifying or we are testing, as a body, we have to be impartial because we should give you impartial results regardless of from where that product is coming or which service is this or which organization is that. And third pillar is consistent operation, which means every time I get the same product, I test it in the same way. Every time I audit a company for ISO 9001, I audit it the same way. It should not happen that in one place I am doing a 2-day audit, in another place I do a half-day audit. Same company, same kind of production, same factory, same size. So that is the idea of consistent operation. Now, please see this definition and note that this only applies to conformity assessment bodies. And conformity assessment bodies are, laboratories are conformity assessment body. They assess conformity of the product. Even medical labs are conformity assessment bodies. They assess your blood or urine sample testing. Inspection bodies, we all understand what inspection is. Certification, I'll give some explanation later on what is certification. Validation verification is a new kind of thing, which is you may be hearing today when you talk about ESG these days. A lot many people are talking about ESG. We are talking about carbon credits. We are talking about GHG. There, this term is used, validation and verification, which applies to claims. If you make a claim, it has to be validated or it has to be verified. Now, the caution here is, since you people come from healthcare field, usually from Ayush, not to confuse this accreditation with the word accreditation, which is used in healthcare and in education. We have, for example, NABH accreditation of hospitals, very well known. Everybody knows. We also have something called NAC accreditation of education. I think everybody knows about NAC accreditation. And these terms are used elsewhere also. In US also, there is education accreditation or healthcare accreditation like JCI. In our terms, in the terms of ISO standards, this is actually equivalent to certification, because accreditation, as you can see from the above definition, is about competence of conformity assessment bodies. So as an accreditation body, whether I was in NABCB as CEO, I do not go to the industry directly. I do not go to the Ayush manufacturing industry directly. I do not go to Ayush hospital directly. I go to those who go to that industry. I go to a lab which tests Ayush products. I go to a certification body which certifies Ayush factory. I go to a certification body which certifies Ayush hospital. So as an accreditation body, we are one level removed from the industry. Whereas in education and in healthcare, the accreditation body is going directly to the concerned industry, educational institutions or healthcare establishments. So in our terminology, actually, this is certification, not accreditation. Another point about accreditation is that accreditation in ISO terms is accreditation about competence. That's the defining thing, competence. Are you competent to test Ayush products? Are you competent to test pesticide residue to PPB levels or PPT levels? Whereas education and healthcare accreditations are all about processes, the process of education, the process of healthcare management. It's not about competence as much. So a certain part is relating to competence, but it's not, focus is not competence. Focus is process. In our case, the focus is competence. Is the lab competent? Is the certification body competent? Is the inspection body competent? That is the focus of the accreditation we are talking about today. Now, why is it important? Why this accreditation is important? The fact is, in the global market today, quality and safety are major drivers. A product or service has to have quality, has to be safe. Service has to be safe as well. Healthcare management, adventure tourism, they have to be safe. And we have been taught right from the beginning when I joined the Bureau of Indian Standards way back that this needs to be built into the design of the product or the service. From day one, when you start to design a product, you have to think about what standard I am going to meet and whether my product will meet that standard or not. Now, the products and services which have health or safety, especially health and safety implications, there is a need to enforce standards by law, which are called technical regulations in product segment. There's a term used now. When I joined BIS way back in 1980, we used to use terms mandatory standards and voluntary standards. But in 1995, WTO came into being, agreement to technical barriers to trade, TBT agreement came in. It actually defined technical regulation standards, technical regulations as compulsory requirements, standards as voluntary requirements. So today we say regulations and standards. Regulations means imposed by law on a compulsory basis. Standards means voluntary standards. There's no longer the use of term mandatory standards. So there are very many sectors in products as well as services which are amenable to regulation, which means standards are being enforced by law loosely, I would say. Food, we know it. Drugs, we know. Electrical appliances, LPG cylinders. Services like healthcare ought to be. There's another ground, health safety is one. There's another ground called deceptive trade practices, under which in TBT agreement is mentioned that you can regulate. So some of the services which are regulated are about deceptive trade practices, banking or financial or education. Why are we regulating them? Because we don't want common man to be cheated. So these are the grounds on which regulation can take place. Regulation can now today is taking place even on sustainability, on climate action, on energy efficiency. So there can be several grounds on which regulation can take place. So this is what WTO regime is now today. There are grounds defined in TBT agreement clearly: health, safety, deceptive trade practices. Gold, for example, gold jewelry, whether it's adulterated or pure, that is deceptive trade practice. Environment, national security, that can also be a reason. And the TBT WTO agreement says that as far as possible, you should use international standards in your regulations. In services, there is an agreement called GATS, General Agreement on Trade in Services. It has two additional grounds: public order, which is a very wide ground. On public order, you can do regulation, and privacy of data. In India, we are just getting DPDP Act is there, rules are being framed. So in addition to the above 5 grounds, these two are also mentioned. So what we see in the market is two distinct regimes. One, regulated sectors. Food, it will be regulated. Drugs, it will be regulated. Medical devices, it will be regulated. And we see sectors which are driven by standards or voluntary standards. They can be product standards, they can be system standards, they can be process standards, variety of standards. And globally, it's understood that regulations are responsible to the government. Government only can, because it needs a legislative instrument. You need an act. Even in India, government has no power by itself unless there's an act which gives it power. So today there's an act called Drugs and Cosmetics Act. There's an act called Clinical Establishment Act, which gives the government power to enforce something. And therefore, only governments can do. Private sector has no authority to make an act or pass a legislation. Whereas standards in developed economies, which is voluntary standards I'm talking about, generally driven by market, by industry and other stakeholders. Governments have minimum role in that. If you look at US, some of you are coming from US or Canada or UK. I remember some experts are there, hugely driven by private sector and stakeholders. In developing economies like India also, government initiated. So the Bureau of Indian Standards or Indian Standard Institution was initiated by government because the stakeholders were not weak. There's a valid reason for it. All developing economies, you will say that even voluntary standard activity is driven by the government or initiated by the government. So BIS makes standards, but they're not compulsory. BIS may be a statutory body, but standards are not compulsory. They're voluntary. But what has been seen globally, that it's not enough to meet global standards or regulations, as they say. How you demonstrate compliance is also important. And that is called conformity assessment, inspection, testing, certification. And there are a variety of models available. You can do a self-declaration. I can declare. For example, if any of you have seen Ayurveda Training Accreditation Board, there is a provision there that you can self-declare conformity to the standard, accreditation standard for training in Ayurveda. Or it can be intensive third-party assessment. I remember in BIS, when I was there, we used to do 4 inspections a year. Every quarter, we would go and inspect the factory. Or when I was in Export Inspection Council, in seafood, every 15 days they were visiting, monitoring visit was being done. So there's no single model possible for assessing compliance. You can test a product, you can test a product, you can ask the manufacturer to produce a test report. That's one way of doing it. You say, no, I don't trust your sample. I would come and draw a sample and get it tested. That's another way of doing it. So it depends on risk. Low risk products, you can be less intensive. High risk products like animal products, food, drugs, they are your more intensive. So now you need a system whereby you can have confidence that testing is being done right, that certification is being done right, that inspection is being done right. And that is done through accreditation. And second thing, which is in a global market you need is, I test it in India and send a product to US, they should accept my test report. Or US tests something and sends the product to India, and we should accept their test report. So global acceptability is also an issue. So there are two things: confidence in conformity assessment, confidence in the accuracy. That's a reliable, accurate inspection or testing or certification. And global acceptance. Whatever I do should be acceptable globally. This is done through accreditation. That's the word used here. Accreditation that I am talking. Third party attestation. There are international standards, usually by ISO. I have listed some of them for inspection, for labs, for boards of certification bodies. These are the standards which are used. So please remember that it's not merely enough to meet international standards. It's also required that you meet them in internationally acceptable ways, the manner of demonstration. There was a study done by WTO itself in 2016, I think it was. They studied all the trade concerns which were raised in WTO by various countries about the regulations of other countries. And you know what was the discovery? One of the findings? Only 30% concerns was based on standards. 70% were based on conformity assessment procedure. Now, when you think about it, you will realize, yes, this is understandable because you can agree on a single standard for a product. But when it comes to demonstration of conformity, as I said, it will depend on risk in the market also. I mean, in our country like India, judicial processes are weak, market surveillance is weak. So self-declaration is very risky. Whereas in Europe, they rely on self-declaration. Many of the C-marked product that you see in your day-to-day use, the chargers, etc., many of those products are based on self-declaration. There is no third-party assessment. And these procedures can also be used to make imports difficult. You know, you make a complicated procedure, it becomes difficult. Right now, India is facing a lot of pressure from international community on what are called quality control orders, which are issued in India, which prescribe BIS certification on a compulsory basis, which is seen to be more complicated or onerous. So many countries are actually doing that. US FDA requires that they will go and assess accreditation bodies before they accept a third-party certification, which is making things difficult. You accept automatically, you make things easier. You say, no, I will first assess you before I accept, you make things difficult. So many countries are using accreditation today. It is being used in trade. I have myself been part of trade negotiations, even with USA, when I was in service. So it's being used in trade. It's being referred in free trade negotiations. It's being referred in free trade agreements. The word accreditation comes. The acceptance of accreditation, acceptance of test reports comes in the free trade agreements today, based on accreditation. Just to illustrate a very simple example, I'll give you how the power of conformity assessment is important it is. We know about gold jewelry. We know about 18 karat, 22 karat, 24 karat gold jewelry. Everybody knows same purity. You go in Dubai and buy it. You go in USA and buy it. You go in England and buy it. You go buy in India. Same standard, same purity everywhere. We have a system of hallmarking here in India by BIS. So if gold is hallmarked, it should be acceptable worldwide. The standard is same, but yet it's not. Actually, it is not. Why not? Because the assaying centers, the testing labs, which are called assaying centers, they do not meet international standard. BIS has own standard for assaying centers. It approved more than thousands assaying centers. But they don't meet international standard because they did not prescribe ISO 17025 or NABL or any other accreditation. So when we are talking, I'm giving you a live example. We are talking to UK today. We are having trade negotiation, and I was consulted once. And we found that our hallmarking is not acceptable. So I spoke to CEO NABL. I told him, have you got any assaying centers who have taken NABL accreditation? He said, yes, we have some. I said, can you give me the list? He gave me a list of about 50 odd assaying centers which had NABL accreditation. I handed over that list to Department of Commerce. I told them, don't ask for acceptance of hallmarking. Ask for acceptance of test reports from these assaying centers, which UK is willing. UK was willing. UK has actually exchanged with India a number of sectors where they are willing to accept test reports from India. That makes trade easier. But that has to be based on UK has a very clearly defined policy that they'll accept conformity assessment, which is accredited to international standards, part of the international system. So it is possible for us to get our test reports accepted in UK through this mechanism. But the question is, who tests or certifies? The answer, at least as far as India is concerned, anyone can do it. Tomorrow I can set up a certification body and start or set up a lab and start testing or start issuing certificates. There's no law or regulation. There's no licensing required. Like as you understand in drugs, if you want to manufacture AYUSH drugs, you need a license. You can't otherwise. But in case of conformity assessment, there's no such thing. I can go ahead and open a lab. I can go ahead and open a certification body. There's no legal bar. It can be private. It can be private limited. It can be one-person company. It can be partnership company, whatever, profit, non-profit, any kind. And in case of lab, at least I need equipment. I'll have to make some investment. And it's quite heavy investment today if I want to test, say, AYUSH products. It's quite an investment that I have to make. But in certification, nothing. I just need a room. There are certification bodies which are having no office. There are accreditation bodies which are having no office, no physical office. I have myself evaluated an accreditation body which has no physical office. So even certification bodies can operate without a physical office. That accreditation body, I remember, had a registered office in US. Its CEO was sitting in London. Its quality manager was sitting in Spain. And they said, our people are all over the world. We'll bring them on, we'll have a meeting room. We'll have a screen. You can talk to any of them. We'll bring everybody online. Our recording keeping is online. We'll show you any record that you want. So that's all that is needed. People and documentation and maybe a computer. That's all. What is certification then? Certification, again, I have given a definition which is technical. Third-party attestation, you already understand. Related to an object of conformity assessment. What is the object? Except accreditation, because accreditation is a different discipline, certification is different discipline. Now, object could be a product, a AYUSH drug, for example, or a medicine plant. A process, for example, organic, that's a process. A service, you can certify it. Training, you can certify education. It can be an organization which is certified. It can be a facility. It can be a management system like ISO 9001. It can be also a person. You can certify a person, and I'll come to that. So here are the examples of different kinds of certification. In India, we are all familiar with ISA mark. We are familiar with ACMARC. We are familiar with organic certification. Global gap is good agricultural practices. There's an INDIGAP standard, which QCI, I was involved in developing that. It was benchmarked internationally as well. Service certifications, training, education, banking, you can certify services. Management system, we know 9001 already. There's in healthcare now a new standard called ISO 7101, which is applicable to even AYUSH healthcare. I'll talk about it later on. So usually what is called ISO certificates, these are the kind of certificates. And personal certification. And Mr. Kansara is here from Yoga Certification Board. I had the privilege of setting up that scheme way back in 2015, where we certify yoga teachers, yoga instructors, yoga therapists. Even our skill ecosystem in India, we have a healthcare sector skill council. There is an Indian biomedical skill consortium, which does biomedical engineers, certifies biomedical engineers. So all the skill councils in India which are there, they are certifying professionals and they are certifying training providers. Two kinds of certification they are doing. So these are different certifications which are there. Now, how do you authenticate? If I am certifying today, issuing 9001 certificate, am I authentic? Maybe you people know Anil Johri was worked in CEO, he was NABCB CEO, so he knows how to certify. Maybe you can trust me, but many people don't know who Anil Johri is. Earlier in India, especially in developing economies, government was involved in certification, inspection, testing. Regulators had their own labs. PFA had its own labs. State governments have their own labs. But now, today, it's hugely open to private sector. In India also. On an IF website today, there are 175, somebody counted, 175 certification bodies from India listed there. There are more actually. And in fact, globally now, conformity assessment, which is inspection, testing, certificate, is considered a non-governmental activity for the private sector. Now, if it's a governmental body, you will trust. At the end of the day, we may say government is inefficient, this, that, but at the end of the day, we expect that if government has endorsed something, government has no commercial interest, government is supposed to be neutral, government is supposed to follow rules, so you can have some confidence. But private sector, how do you have confidence? Maybe by name or brand. Like I said, Anil Johri, many people may think, well, Anil Johri knows how certification takes place, so he must be following rules. Or by brand, for example, Tata's actually have a certification body called TP Cert. So you might feel, oh, Tata's is a big name, they must be doing everything right. But the only structured recognized way is accreditation. There's no other way of establishing, or the most popular, I would say, means is accreditation. That it's accredited, that means somebody has seen it and somebody is saying, yes, this is okay. And there's an international system which is in place today, fortunately for us. There is a body called International Accreditation Forum for certification bodies and validation verification bodies accreditation. There's a body called International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation for labs and inspection. And these two are merging. Next year, they will merge into something called Global Accreditation Cooperation, GAC. Not only that, there are regional bodies. In Asia, this is called Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation. In Europe, it's called European Accreditation Cooperation. In Americas, it's called Inter-American Accreditation Cooperation. There's one in Africa. There's one for Arab countries. And they have a system whereby IF and ILAC, they actually evaluate regional bodies. I have been an IF evaluator myself. Shobha here has been an IF evaluator. The regional bodies evaluate the individual accreditation body. So every 4 years, NABCB or NABL gets evaluated every 4 years. I have been an APAC evaluator myself. Shobha has also been an APAC evaluator. And we have been accreditation body assessors. I have assessed for NABCB. She has assessed for NABL and NABCB. And we have been certification body auditors when we were in BIS. Both of us were in BIS, and Mr. Kansara also. We audited on behalf of BIS, which is a certification body. So we have done all kinds of evaluation, as you can see. So, you know, in our community, there's a joke which says, in God we trust, rest all have to show evidence. So everybody has to be evaluated. And from India, in this international system, we have today 5 bodies. For a long time, NABCB and NABL were the only bodies, the national bodies. Now, 3 private sector accreditation bodies have come up in lab, QAI, FDAS, and IQS. All of them have signed the MRA. You are evaluated and you signed a mutual recognition arrangement, by which you say that you are internationally equivalent. So, I mean, it's a matter of pride that 5 accreditation bodies in India today, all of them have signed international MRAs. They are all internationally recognized. But please remember one thing. This is a voluntary system created by IF and ILAC. It's not a government-backed or government-endorsed system. Governments have to endorse. Government have to use this system. They do use this system. But it is not automatic. Government acceptance cannot be automatic. It's a voluntary system outside the government. A voluntary system has been created. Today, governments think this is a wonderful system. Why not leverage it? So they do leverage it. They leverage it in FTAs. As I said, it's referred to in FTAs. So this is how it looks like pictorially. On top, which will be a single body in times to come, GAC, the regional bodies, the accreditation bodies, the certification bodies or inspection bodies or labs, and then the product or organization or process which is certified. Now look at the beauty of this. And I want you to understand this because we will talk global equivalence later on. If a company is certified to ISO 9000, which is a global standard, all over the world, the same standard. Okay. And if he is certified by a certification body, which follows an international standard, in this case, ISO 17021, which is accredited by an accreditation body, say NABCB, which follows ISO 17011, which is evaluated by a regional body, APAC, which is evaluated in turn by IFILA. So now you have made sure that the base standard is international, common, 9001, and the manner of demonstrating compliance is also international, 1721. And this is being done by bodies which have all been evaluated. So now ISO 9001 certificate becomes acceptable globally. That's how a 9001 certificate works today. Anywhere you are certified, if your certificate carries accreditation body logo, NABCB logo, or US accreditation body like ANAB or whoever, or UCAS in UK, that certificate is accepted worldwide that you are properly ISO 9001 certified. Now think about the product. If it's a product standard, and the product standard is international. Let's say electric iron, which actually has an international standard for safety. It is tested in a lab as per a test method, which is an international standard, in a lab which is accredited as per 1725, which is accredited by an accreditation body, say like NABL or QAI or whoever, which is evaluated by APAC, which is evaluated by IF. Now, this electric iron can be accepted worldwide. The product can be accepted. That's how the products move within Europe. That's how they move within ASEAN freely because of this framework. So this is an important framework for trade of goods as well as trade of services. One very good option, how you establish global equivalence. So now coming to global equivalence, whether it's a regulation or standard. Now I'm going to use these terms. Regulation means compulsory, standard means voluntary. There are two components. One, the base requirements for the product or process, like organic certification. Let's talk about organic certification. Everybody understands. If the standard is common, and second is manner of demonstrating compliance. Both have to be internationally acceptable. As I demonstrated in the example of hallmarking, both have to be internationally acceptable. Now, in AYUSH, let me come to AYUSH. All three of us who are here are members of an AYUSH working group. So we'll give you some idea of what is going on. Ministry of AYUSH wants to award, reward, recognize those manufacturers and those services in AYUSH which meet global standards. So they have set up an AYUSH working group. I happen to be have the privilege of being chair. Shobha is a member, so is Kansara, and there are others. Now we have identified these products, the AYUSH drugs, the botanicals, and the medicinal plants. And Dr. Deepika, I could see in the crowd, she's here. She's another expert on that, and our primary expert for products actually. And we have identified services, hospitals, daycare centers, clinics, testing labs. That's why Shobha is here to explain to you about testing labs, wellness centers, medical value travel facilitators, education and training. These are the services we have identified where we are going to identify what are the global standards. And that was a challenge for us. Now, what will be the criteria? What will be the standard which they have to comply with? So we decided that it's healthcare. We are talking about AYUSH, which is healthcare. So any WHO standard can be accepted as a global standard. I am sure you would agree with that. So there's WHO GMP, there's WHO good execution practices, there is WHO good collection practices, and there are QCI schemes for AYUSH mark or medicinal plants, or there is a formal WHO GMP COP certificate. We can accept that that's international. I am sure you will agree with that. There's an ISO standards. ISO standards are also international. There's an ISO standard for healthcare called ISO 7101. Even 9001. Any organization can implement 9001. A hospital can implement, a spa can implement, a medical value tourism facilitator, anybody can implement. But we found there are separate ISO standards for spas and for medical value tourism. But they need some customization. So we have done that customization. And now I'm happy to tell you, in ISO, there is a committee on Ayurveda and Yoga. There's a ISO committee on traditional medicine. There's one subcommittee, which actually last week they had a meeting in Netherlands. There's one subcommittee on Ayurveda and Yoga, and there's one subcommittee on Chinese traditional medicine. Then I'm sure some of you are aware, in healthcare, there's a system called ISQA, International Society for Quality in Healthcare. They have a system of endorsing standards. They have a system of endorsing healthcare accreditation bodies, Now I'm talking about. I'm not talking about NABCB and NABL today. In this context, I'm talking about, say, NABH or QA. There are two bodies here. Or there's something called JCI. There is something called RC. There is something called TEMOS, which has just stepped in. It's a German body. So ISQA is endorsing standards. ISQA is endorsing organization. We decided this can be another criteria for acceptance, that they are globally acceptable. Then, of course, in the IF system, there is a system of endorsing schemes, a certification scheme. When I created yoga certification scheme way back, or even later on, I have been involved in creating certification system or accreditation system for Ayurveda training also. My intention was that we'll go someday to IAF to get endorsement of our schemes. What it requires is that at least 3 countries should express interest. Now, our schemes, yoga certification, I'm sure Mr. Kansara will give you more detail, are operating more than 3 states. Even Ayurveda training accreditation, although it's very new in infancy, it's operating already in more than 3 countries. So we need to get those countries interested that there should be an endorsed scheme. And that could also be another way of showing global acceptance. So to sum up, first thing is that we need to understand, I find this a very, kind of uh, problem in India, that we don't understand the difference between regulations and standards. We tend to mix them. We tend to mix regulations with certification and accreditation. Generally speaking, regulation and compliance is one word used. Standards and conformity is another expression used. Usually say conformity to standard, compliance to regulations. Certification accreditation normally are voluntary, normally. And these are distinct regimes and normally done by different people. Regulation by regulator, voluntary by somebody else. Usually it's a good practice to keep them separate. Any product or service having health implications, and therefore Ayush comes in that, or safety implications or unfair trade practices, as I showed, will have to be regulated. Unfortunately, healthcare services in India are not regulated so well. We don't have any medical lab regulation. We don't have hospital regulation yet. Under CA, some standards have been finalized. I am in the National Council. Standards have been finalized, but they are yet to be notified. Regulation is a responsibility of the government. It will always be done by government. Private participation is possible. Labs can be there. Auditing bodies can be there, but they have to be notified by the regulators. Like Food Authority is notified, labs and food safety audit agencies. Like CDSU has notified medical device, notified bodies and labs. Voluntary standards, certification or accreditation, as is being called in healthcare, is one means of showing world-class quality. Especially in India, I do not expect that product situation is much better. In services, I do not expect that every hospital in India, about 1 lakh hospitals, will be capable of achieving NABH accreditation. In 25 years, how many accreditations NABH has done? Maybe 7, 8, 9, 10,000. Overall, accreditation plus what they call certification. So, voluntary in India, to me, represents a very good way of showing conformity to international standards. A voluntary option where businesses can go and demonstrate they are world class. 20% of them, whether it's hospitals, whether it's wellness centers, and rest can continue with minimum standards. Minimum standards should be laid down through the law, certainly, because it's healthcare. And because the voluntary standards are voluntary standards, anybody can make. There's no bar. It's not that only BIS will make voluntary standards. QCI has made number of voluntary standards. Any other person can make. So they are going to be multiple. We have to be prepared for that. There'll be multiple standards, and businesses will choose what suits them best. Before NABH came, ISO 9000 was very popular in hospitals. But when NABH came, business switched to NABH because that was made more business sense. Fine, that's how it is. BIS has made standards on hospitals. None of them works in the market because businesses find NABH accreditation is more profitable to them than taking 9001 or taking BIS standard. But in this global equivalence that we are looking at, accreditation will be a underpin this global equivalence. That we should understand. That's the value of accreditation today. That's the value accreditation brings. That's why there's a word accreditation day. That's why we are celebrating today. I hope I have been able to make you understand how accreditation will be helpful for us to promote even Ayush globally. Whether it's testing, whether it's certification, whether it's products, whether it's services. And that's what our working groups I'm trying to do. And the other two speakers, I'm sure, will throw more light on the specific areas that they will speak. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. We will take question and answer after the speakers. Excellent, sir. Excellent. These are the basic facts everybody should know. Everybody should. We are really grateful to you, sir. Now I would like to invite Sri N.K. Kansaraji. Sri N.K. Kansaraji, welcome. Welcome, sir. Sri N.K. Kansaraji, are you here with us?
Yeah, I'm with you all through. Okay, no worry. Okay, yeah, I'm with you. I will just start my screen. Okay, thank you. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Sharma as well as Anil Johari, who has put us into this wonderful program. Let me start with sharing my screen. Yeah, yes. Whether my screen is visible? No.
Not yet, sir.
Not yet, not yet. I will say display selection. Just a minute. This is sometimes what happens. But it has started playing with me. Let me check. Let me check. Okay. Yeah. Wait.
You have not got accredited, sir.
No. I'm starting. Just wait. Yeah. Wait. Whereas that signal has gone, but let me check. No problem. Yes. Yeah. Sharing. Okay. Screen two. Is it now available? No. I'm sharing. Yes. Share. Is it visible now?
It
Yes.
will be, yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay. So what and is it?
You can go for slideshow.
Yeah, I am doing slideshow. Okay,
Great, sir.
right. Okay, so what at the outset again, sorry for this hitch. Uh, Yoga, as Mr. Johari had in his introduction also said, I am also of the same clan. Maybe quality and certification and accreditation fellow, but I am not a yoga man. Okay. But in the last almost now 1 year, I have learned so many things about the yoga itself, even though in my own family there were yoga practitioners and I was not so much keen to follow that, but yoga has followed me and pulled me inside it. Okay, so this is what, but it is a really a good journey. And what I am going to show you here, this is the photograph. Now all of you would have observed it. Uh, our Prime Minister carrying out these yoga sessions for the last now almost more than 10 years. This year we are celebrating the decadal of yoga, which is now International Day of Yoga being celebrated. And this slide has a particular meaning. See, the figures are just enormous. What wonderful yoga related figures are there. uh, it has set 4 Guinness World Records, and next week there are going to be double of these Guinness records because our Prime Minister and what the next week's International Yoga Day celebrations, they have planned some very, very great things in store for us. A few more Guinness World Records are bound to be there. Already these figures, they show how many people have participated in a single yoga session. Good. These are in thousands only. This year it will be in lakhs. Okay, this is what is there. This year itself, more than 40 countries are being invited to India to representatives to India for yoga sessions. All these things are there, but they have certain things which you will see the how yoga is uh, there in the throughout the country and throughout the world. Some more figures I tell you why these figures are relevant. These figures are in India. There are more than 27,000 hospitals, health centers or healthcare centers, hospitality sectors, which is hotels, etc. Then schools, private, public sector companies also, and even gyms to recreation. And one thing you can add, even the government offices, all these things. Why these figures and the previous slide in which we saw the other figure over there, the yoga becomes the link for all these people. Okay. Because all these activities would need yoga professionals. This is how the yoga is spreading in our country. It is for the mental well-being. And I tell you what I have experienced is that yoga, now it will be very novice on my part to preach on for yoga, but I think that all Ayush activities on one side and yoga you take out another because it is self-help. You have to learn just how to do the right type of yoga and manage your body, manage your health. So to manage your body and health and do the yoga, what we have is already in the country, more than 150 yoga colleges are there. Some university departments are there. 88 are already there. And astonishingly, more than 1,000 yoga centers are there who are providing some sort of training or the other. So what they bring out is the yoga professionals. And all these professionals, they get some opportunity or the other to serve the society, either through healthcare or hospitality or tourism. Education itself is a very big stream where even school level and college level yogas are being carried out. And now sports, it is being now after maybe 8 years from now, yoga would also be accepted as a uh, Olympic sport, which has been agreed in principle. So it will reach that level. So India has a big work and challenge in front of it to participate in yoga at Olympic level and then win. And of course, at workplace, this is what I find it very useful, even for public companies, private companies, government offices. We are sort of paper tigers doing office job throughout the day, sitting in office. But if you manage your body, even while sitting in office, through yoga, maybe the yoga breaks are there and some physical activity. So this is the all about the importance of yoga and the yoga professionals which are needed throughout the country and abroad. So then what is the source of these yoga professionals? Very simple is the formal education on yoga. We have colleges, universities, national institutions, and even leading yoga institutions who are running their own courses. And from colleges and universities, we have diploma courses, we have graduation level, even BSc, MSc yoga, MD and IY doing. So many other universities are also doing. Full-fledged departments are there in many of the universities. Then another source is, of course, is the training centers, which I mentioned. More than 1,000 training centers are there. They are also developing yoga professionals. And last and not the least, self-trained. There are people who are very well trained, who know the yoga. They carry out the yoga practices themselves and have a huge following. And they are also really good professionals. So they become the source of multiplier effect, and the more and more professionals are created. But key point is whether these yoga professionals who are providing service to the society as instructors, yes or no, then the quality of yoga professional becomes more important. And therefore, once we talk of the quality, what Jory sir has also said about conformity assessment, then the role of accreditation and certification kicks in. We know in the last 1 year of my experience, there have been a lot of examples where some cases of certification have come to us, where yoga professionals have to be certified. The candidates themselves have undergone graduation level, diploma level, and even institution level training programs. But the failure percentage of those professionals is as much as 35 to 40%. So so even if they have done their own degree or diploma courses and this, when they undertake the exams, there are failures. So quality is what the accreditation and certification ensures. And all these people coming through the institutions of repute or training centers. And the third very important sector is the personal certification bodies who are carrying out these conducting exams, etc. They have a key role to play in generating and providing the yoga professionals to the society, okay, to the society. So this is what the role of YCB comes in. Jari had already mentioned about starting the yoga activities way back in 2015, where it was initiated under his tenure in QCI. It started. Then over a period of time, within 3 years, little less than 3 years, uh, Ministry of AYUSH created the Yoga Certification Board itself through an executive order. And I am happy to share with you that very soon it will take a formal shape, or maybe in a government department of autonomous body sort of setup. But for that, the government is going ahead with some actions are to be taken, and it will be done. And the YCB itself has its board, how it functions, and its advisory committees. We have been doing the activities of accreditation of training providers. Large number of training providers are there in the country, but very small portion of that they have come to YCB, approached YCB for getting accreditation. Personnel certification bodies are also there, but there is a difference. The type of certification bodies which we have, very few are formal personnel certification bodies who are following the ISO 17021 model or ISO 17024 models with them. And most of the other personnel certification bodies are themselves who have adopted the YCB scheme. Okay, and largely they are following the 17024 model, because YCB schemes is based on 17024 model. So that is there. And the other most important activity is the certification of professionals, which is examination based. Okay, the examination comprises of theory as well as practical tests. We have moved on. I will just in my last slide, I will tell what we are doing in that. And one more important activity is the certification of yoga volunteers. They also have a defined role where they are able to get the yoga activities done in societies or in colleges or where, any other place where large number of groups are there, or RWs, etc. They are basically the facilitators. They also know the yoga, and these activities have their schemes very well defined. The duration, now I will just bring out that what are these, like these professionals. If you see the yoga education and training set of professionals are there. Then yoga therapy is there, yogasana skill. This is what I was saying, which is coming in the yogasana sports category, and yoga health and promotion. And the various types of professionals under these streams are the protocol instructor, the wellness instructor, the teacher and evaluator, and yoga master. The beauty of this scheme is that they have a well-defined uh, syllabus and the course content, which have been prepared by the specialist and our committees, technical committee, which have the members from yoga fraternity. Even the education institutions are also there who have contributed to that. And now we are moving on to the yoga for the higher secondary schools teacher and primary elementary school yoga teacher. Also, we have come out with the certification programs. And under the therapy also, we have assistant yoga therapist and therapeutic yoga consultant also. They have much higher level of eligibility criteria in terms of the therapeutic yoga consultant should be a medical professional, and he would do it with the yoga expert. He should have done the yoga courses, etc. So all these are well defined. The professionals, how they are certified, they undergo the examinations, and for these the training programs which are being conducted by the institutions. Okay, what we have is the different type of institutions from which these professionals are generated. They come out. We have the apex. These are the leading yoga institutions which have the uh, legacy of yoga traditions. Okay, their criteria is also well defined. How many years of experience in yoga, how many professionals they should have already done, and this continuing yoga education program also should be done. So these are the set of institutions where we are carrying out the accreditation activities, and all these training centers, when they come out with their professionals, they undergo the examinations, and those professionals are certified. Okay, so what is the activities? Then the accreditation activities are, they follow the scheme which are based on international. It is just normal way of carrying out the submission of application, which is through portal. Uh, Everything is online. Okay, as such, even the documentation are also to be submitted through the portal itself, and which are reviewed. Then it follows the assessment process, and followed by grant. Of course, if there is any deficiency or documentation requirement additional, then it goes back to the institute, the training provider or the personal certification body or the training provider. It goes on. What was mentioned by Mr. Jory also, after the grant, it doesn't end here. Then we also have renewal processes. In between, there are surveillance activities also to be carried out, and these can be announced as well as unannounced to check on the activities of how the processes of accreditation and training activities and are carried out smoothly. In addition to these, what we have is these activities. What I will say, the training institute, what we are ensuring impartiality, etc. Training institutes, we are not allowing them to conduct examinations because those who are providing trainings, they should not be part of the examination. And the same applies to personal certification bodies also. They do not do the training activities. However, based on the level of these leading yoga institutions, presently both are allowed. But with the safeguards are that the group of personnel involved in conducting the training programs or providing training or education to the candidates, they are not party to the examination activities, okay, in the entire examination process. We have our own, YCB has its own panel of assessors, panel of lead examiners, as well as the examiners, and the bodies have to select from them. Observers are just, they are not provided every time, but as and when required, or maybe for gaining feedback on the activities which are being carried out in respect of training as well as conducting examination, they are deputed by YCB. This is there. And the, the assessment of training institutions, it involves documentation review as per the scheme. You can see that these are all things. If someone has reference to the 17024, these things are very well covered over there, and our schemes largely are in line with that. The training institute shall have the infrastructure and facilities comprising of space requirement, classrooms, utilities, including the safety aspects, and the leading yoga, or then the learning resources, as simple as mats and other accessories which should be there, whether it is there or not existing, that verification is there. Library, environmental condition which should be conducive to the yoga activity. That is, these are for the training institutions. If we go on further, then it also has requirements for human resource, the teaching staff and the non-teaching, that means managerial and administrative staff also, that is mentioned. Most importantly, the curriculum and syllabus, which is much more important. That is where the how the yoga professionals are learning the yoga activities. That syllabus and curriculum is also well defined for each category of the yoga professionals, and which they should follow. YCB is into the interactions with these leading yoga institutions, where, because what we have documented so far is based on the current needs, what we thought. But there are many leading yoga institutions which are running their own yoga related courses. They are also in demand and they are also useful to the society. So we are flexible enough to induct their programs also under YCB accreditation and certification program. And we are hopeful that with this type of flexibility, other courses will also get covered, and they will come under the ambit of the accreditation and certification, the people, candidates getting from them. So that will also be there, which the things which will be common for all training institutions, which is also part of the 17024, the management and structure, the website it should have, the IT human resource should, IT part, admission process, feedback, complaints, finances, all these things are the interested institutions. They are supposed to document it, have it in place, get them assessed through YCB. Same things apply to the personal certification bodies. Almost the assessment process is similar, but it is more focused on the conduct of examination by these personal certification bodies. Our web portal is also same, and whatever is required, just like you can see the scheme for documentation as per the scheme and infrastructure, those things are there. Then they should have a yoga expert also. In the system for assessment process should be well documented, demonstrable, and the examinations are being conducted in the form of theory and practical. The CV should also be having a financial stability, just like the same in any other management system where assessments are being carried out. These things are documented over there. So we are focusing on these. Our outcome is, as far as okay, right now we are, none of our accredited institution is for the personal certification body is 17024, and for training provider 170, but decision has been taken, and soon they will be all switching over to the under accreditation bodies, and they will seek accreditation from accreditation bodies against these standards, and YCB will act as the scheme owner and guide these things happen over there under these standards. So the current data is very less. We are as such not happy. We want more institutions to come forward. A little over 100 institutions are already accredited, and out of that, almost 25% are maybe dormant. I would use the word dormant or inactive with respect to YCB activities, means the accreditation part. These institutions may be active, and these include 9 institutions which are accredited by YCB in foreign countries, including and in the personnel certification bodies, the 29 are there. One institution, one PCB is accredited in foreign country, which is Japan, and put together they have all yielded 42,000 plus yoga certified professionals to the country, and more than 6.5 lakhs volunteers. These figures, what we are now planning is to multiply almost 10 times in the next 5 years. It may be appearing to be a very big, tall order, but it is not so if we have the support of this. I tell you one very good experience, which is we are now going through. YCB is because there is a World Expo going on in Japan, which is basically a business Olympiad of the businesses. It comes after every 4 years, and all countries take part in it, and it continues for 6 months together. So in these 6 months, India is also having a India pavilion there, and all the ministries of the government, they are assigned 1 or 2 weeks. They will display their activities over there and promoting businesses. And in this activity, YCB is contributing daily yoga sessions over there for 160 days for entire 6 months duration, which we have already started from 13th of April. It will continue till 13th of October. We thought that it will be a good idea to carry out arrange yoga session, at least one yoga session a day. And we were hopeful that the visitors to the expo will take part in our yoga sessions. But the things have reversed. The yoga has become so popular over there that now we are conducting 3 yoga sessions on a daily basis. This week itself, we have started the 4th yoga session also. There is a demand because the Google Sheet, the form which we created for enrollment of these participants, the registrants, it overflowed even after putting a tap on our where to end. Now we will not do more registrations, but still people are coming, and our data shows that because of the yoga sessions on a daily basis, the participants to the India pavilion has increased. that it has increased. So it is the other way around. So this is what is going on, and it is the full government support and the ITPO, which is coordinating all the activities over there, and our embassy. They are so keen that they are wanting more and more, and this has encouraged us to even approach for accreditation over there, and a very good response from Japan itself, that now we have approached the yoga training schools in Japan for seeking accreditation. So we are getting business in Japan for activities related to yoga. This is what is going on, and we have explained them about the accreditation process, just like the same, which is simple for them. And this is what our experience sharing is. I had just last slide I was showing to what we have from YCB was failures are there. And therefore, there had been a debate why certified yoga professional when there are already degree holders and diploma holders. Okay. Simple logic, it is there that conducting a passing a degree course, maybe you may follow how many questions are there, and if you attempt 50% of that, and for you secure 40% marks, you may get a degree, but you do not become a certified instructor to teach yoga. See, you may be knowing yoga, but to teach yoga, you need certification. This is applicable to all certification. Mr. Jory had given examples where all these welders and firefighters and this. So we need professionals, and for professionals, we need certification. That's why we are able to, and it is one of the activity, this yoga professionals, that is also a category defined under exporting our service, okay, to foreign countries. The yoga people are going over there as a certified yoga professional. And my experience is many leading yoga institutions, they take pride. In 2-3 programs which I was able to participate, they have their yoga instructors of 20 years, 25 years of experience. But YCB was created just about a decade ago. But these institutions take pride in telling that their instructors are now YCB certified. See, this is the difference, and that helps, that motivates other people also to come forward for the yoga certification. And what this has demand of the time post COVID. Now almost previously our activities were at site. Now we have switched over to online, and the related challenges are also we have faced, and we are coping with that, and we have overcome many of this. But more importantly, the training institutions and the personal certification bodies, they have very swiftly moved on to the online examinations with all AI proctoring and other things are in place, and they are conducting examinations with some checks and balances. These means of conducting the examinations are also quite robust in its place. Okay, this is what we have to say. So what I say, what I have learned rather, if you are thinking of quality yoga, think of us, because we do the accreditation of trainings and the certification of yoga professionals. Thank you very much. I hope I would have been able to cover little bit of what I have gained in the YCB handling the accreditation activities. Thank you.
Very good initiative, sir. Very good initiative. Excellent initiative, no doubt. Great presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now I
will just take down. I will just take down this.
No problem.
Yeah.
No, please take your. Now I would like to request Madam Shobha Hegde ji. Welcome, Madam. Am I audible to you, Madam?
Yeah, thank you very much. But till Kansara ji, okay. Stop sharing. I can't share.
Anani, I know, but it is still. I have to just. I will just go out and that come back.
Welcome, Madam.
Thank you. You can see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you're able to see?
Yes.
Yes,
You can
yes.
go for slideshow and your video is not on.
No, I wouldn't like to put it on because I'll put it in the last. Otherwise, I'll have a problem in my internet won't support it. So anyway, I don't have too much time, I think. Anyway, mine is not a very long presentation. And a lot of it was covered by Mr. Jory. So I hope you are familiar with accreditation. My subject, I'm going to restrict to accreditation in AYUSH product testing laboratories. Now, as Mr. Jory had said that uh, I mean, there are international standards against which the accreditation occurs. So, for lab testing also, there is an international standard. Many of you may be familiar with it. Let me just... Pardon? Pardon? Is there a problem?
Somebody
You go
opened
on.
mic,
I
I
think
have
somebody
muted.
mic was on. You go on.
It's okay?
Yeah, please go on.
So actually, testing is an activity which many times happens silently, in the sense, and it happens lots of places. For example, it's the backbone of industry and commerce, also health and safety. I mean, these are two very important, and okay, in agriculture, in all other that also is part of commerce. Now, if a manufacturer makes any product, he needs to know whether it is, he needs to identify the standard against which he'll make it. He also needs to know before he sends his product to market that it's complying with the standard. And generally that is done through testing. There are other conformity assessment activity, but the main activity is testing. Now, a lot of us have become very, very aware of medical testing lab because if there are any pandemics like COVID, we definitely need a laboratory which tests us to see whether we have that whatever disease is become pandemic. Also, many of us do routine health checkups. I think almost once a year, everybody nowadays does. So the laboratory which is testing your blood sample, your urine sample, your tissue sample, your stool sample, all that also is done through testing. And what is our expectation from these laboratories who do testing? Expectation is only that it's reliable, accurate, and precise. Whatever results they give, they are reliable, accurate, and precise. And I also add one more element to it. They belong to our samples only. Okay, it doesn't happen that they are reliable, accurate, and precise, but that sample was somebody else's sample. So that also is not acceptable. So these are our expectations from whenever we have testing this thing, whether it is done for commerce, industry, health and safety, etc. Even in now sustainability, there is an element of testing. Okay, the standard, international standard against which, with which the laboratories are supposed to comply with is ISO IEC 17025-2017. The title of this standard is General Requirements for the Competence of Testing and Calibration Laboratories. Mr. Jory had already explained to you that for the purpose of accreditation, competence is the most important. I mean, it verifies whether whatever body is being accredited, is it competent to carry out the activity it does. So here in this standard, the competence word is there as part of the standard. Now let's go to its scope, because that defines what is it for. This also, Mr. Jory has explained to you, this document specified general requirements for competence, impartiality, and consistent operation of laboratories. So these are three pillars over which accreditation rests. That means that body is competent to do the activity. So it can produce a reliable, accurate result. It is impartial. It does the standard, it does the testing without any factors like conflict of interest, etc., coming into it, and exactly gives you the result for whatever sample it has received or it has drawn. Consistent operation means that you will be doing this, producing consistent results, accurate results day in and day out. So whenever you do testing, the laboratory does testing, it must produce same result. So that can only be done through consistency in operation. So these are three pillars. 1725 also defined these three pillars. Now let's this standard, it can be used by any people who want testing done. It can be used by regulatory authorities. For example, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India has defined what are the requirements it wants for the laboratory. Mainly it is 1725, maybe some added requirement which are specific to that regulation. So they have defined that the laboratories, they will recognize for the purpose of testing of food products should be meeting 17,025 plus some added requirements. Now, this standard has these different requirements, and these are typical in accreditation standard with one or two requirements, less or more. So there are general requirements, there are structural general requirements for the body which does that activity. Structural requirement, what should be the structure of that body. Resource requirements. So all type of resources which are required need to be competent to do the job. So competency comes not only that the people working there are competent to do the job. Also, the laboratory, for example, it uses equipment, it uses some bought out items like chemicals, reference materials, etc. So all have to be competent. Only then the competence of lab is established. So they all come under resource requirements. Process requirements, how an activity should be done. That is covered under process requirement. Management requirements are actually how the laboratory activity should be managed. These are system requirements, and the consistency element comes from this requirement. So if you have made proper procedures, you have made proper work instructions, you have explained everybody what they are required to do and how they are required to do, then we expect consistency. And there are certain annexes which are informative annexes. Now, these requirements are written in a very generic fashion. Now, laboratory can have many fields of testing. It could be testing electrical items, it could be testing mechanical item, metallurgical testing, it could be doing chemical testing, microbiological testing. It's a huge gamut wherever there's a testing, there's a test method and it needs to be performed on any article or item to establish whether it conforms to the standard. So it's a very wide field, and within these fields also there would be subfields. For example, chemical testing would have general chemical testing, it would have residue testing, pesticide residue, metal residue, antibiotic residue. It will also have some very specialized testing, and testing requirements for different products would be different. For example, paint testing is very different from, say, food product testing. So there are a lot of subfields. Now, all of them would require people who are doing the testing and involved in other activities are experts in doing that test. Not only familiar, they're competent to do that test. So normally this 1725 in a generic fashion has to be applied to different fields of testing, and that is a challenge in the sense. So that capability comes from people. For example, now if I come to AYUSH testing, I'll explain this better with AYUSH product testing. Now, let's just have a very brief this thing of AYUSH products. Generally, they are classical Ayurvedic, classical medicines and proprietary medicine. AYUSH includes Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, and homeopathy. So there'll be classical formulation and there'll be proprietary medicines. Then within these, there'll be different dosage form, because they could be in the form of, and these are typical names which are coming from its origin. So they could be in any of these form or something more. Proprietary formulations will be something which has been created by a manufacturer, and it may be different from the classical formulations written in our ancient texts. Okay, now when we were creating this document for AYUSH, we looked at the tests, because we have to now see whether under this AYUSH scheme, if we are going to recognize accredited labs, then those labs have to be competent to do the job. Now, if we don't prescribe anything additional, then it is lab which will be deciding. Then it may so occur that different AYUSH product testing labs may describe different criteria. So we have created this additional document, which is supplement to 1725, which has taken into account AYUSH specific competence requirements. So before doing that, what we did, I'm also not from AYUSH this thing, but I have considerable testing experience of different products. So reading a standard for me is not that difficult. So what we did was, our regulatory body has created some what is that pharmacopoeias, which cover all the 4 sectors of AYUSH, Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, and homeopathy. And based on, I guess, the material available in our ancient texts, they have made what is called as Ayurveda pharmacopoeia, Siddha pharmacopoeia, Unani pharmacopoeia, and homeopathy pharmacopoeia, where for different dosage forms, different products, they have given requirements. Now, based on the requirements, the competence can be decided. So what the first step that was done was that we went through all the tests in the pharmacopoeia and divided them into 5 groups for the purpose of defining competence. Say, for example, general physical and chemical tests. These are all tests which are generally done in lots of products. Maybe food product, moisture content, sulfated ash, water insoluble matter, volatile oil in drugs, etc., which are something which normally a chemist who has an experience in laboratory with wide variety would be able to do it, because these are tests which have to be carried out the way that defined in the pharmacopoeia or any other standard test method, and then concluded at the end of it what is the value, or whether it is okay, the product is okay or not. Then there is another group of things which are specifically required for crude drugs and herbs, because these are raw material which are used for making AYUSH products, and they will come from some other source. That means the manufacturer will buy it from maybe a trader, or he may directly buy it from somebody who is growing these herbs, etc., or he may grow his own. So checking whether this is the right raw material I asked for is needed to be done as a first step in any manufacturing. So these would require some very specific tests like microscopy, because see, if the manufacturer is buying from a trader, it's possible that there may be mixing up. For example, the pharmacopoeia requires a root to be used, root of the plant to be used as a raw material, but because root quantity which is produced, which a tree gives is less, so there may be a tendency of mixing with bark deliberately or inadvertently. So then they need to be checked, and this is a special test. I understand. I visited some, the referral laboratories for AYUSH. I'm told that for doing this test, somebody who is a botanist or who has had a considerable experience in doing this type of test is required. So that becomes our group 2. Group 3 is identification, assay, phytochemical parameters of drugs. Because a lot of people here are from AYUSH. It is the phytochemicals in the plants which actually act as medicines or which have properties of preventing certain diseases or curing certain diseases. So they are very important, and that makes those raw material or intermediate material very important, and they should be there in proper proportions in the final product. So these tests are important from that point of view. Originally in our text, we used to do what is called as thin layer chromatography, but now modern equipments are there, PLC, and even it can be done through GC, HPLC, etc. Even doing thin layer chromatography, which was the first type of test which was started, these days, nobody who has done some chemistry, etc., is exposed very much to TLC. And so TLC has also become very important, requiring a lot of skills in doing it. So these are the tests which decide whether this is okay or not okay. I will give you one small example. I've gone to a laboratory in Jammu, which is integrated medicine laboratory of CSIR, and it does lot of research on herbal medicines. So he said one of the popular brands of pudina extract actually uses menthol, not pudina extract. And Ayurveda, I understand, is all because it's the composition of the plant extract which makes it, which is actually a mixture which makes it to have medicinal properties. So these tests are very important to again stop inadvertent and deliberate adulterations. So, and this would also require certain skills, because many times the methods which are given are very generic methods in API, and maybe some method validation would be required. So this also requires a different type of competence. Fourth group is residues. That means pesticide, metal residue, and aflatoxins or such things. Now, in Indian pharmacopoeia, some requirements are given, residues. They are as per the requirements in this country, maybe based on whatever pesticides are used here, and the limits will be higher. They would be coming from the actual toxicology tests. But when the AYUSH medicines are exported, the importing countries, especially the Western countries, Australia, US, etc., have very stringent residue requirements. That means the number of pesticide residues is much higher, and the limits may be much lower. So this also, then it would definitely be done through maybe LCMS, GCMS, etc., which would require method validation and expertise in dealing with such residues. So, and this is also comes from basic qualification and experience. So this has been grouped separately. More or less, these are similar to what is done in food products. So if a laboratory is food product laboratory who does residue and chemical contaminants, that would be able to do it with little verification. The last group is biological tests. So these are total microbial count and pathogens like E. coli, Staphylococcus, Salmonella, etc. So this definitely would require qualification and experience in microbiology. So these have been grouped separately because we wanted to take care of actually defining competence of people who are working in AYUSH product testing laboratory. Okay, now based on this analysis that 1725 is a generic standard, and also AYUSH, if we want a world-class AYUSH laboratory, I mean, I would say the best laboratories in India, then we needed to add some requirements to 17,025. That means without actually adding, subtracting any requirement, if we made the requirement more specific to the particular field of testing and also made them more stringent, that is permitted. I mean, applying it more rigorously is permitted. So we have, based on experience of people in our group, and we have defined additional requirements. For example, independence is one requirement. Actually, 1725 can be granted to any type of laboratory. It could be an independent laboratory, third-party laboratory, or it could be a manufacturer's laboratory. But for example, if it is a manufacturer laboratory, there will not be independence, because naturally, if I, as a manufacturer, goes to another manufacturer's laboratory, the chances of it's after all a competitor sample, so there would be a little problem. So we wanted to have a specific requirement for independence. The dish has to be purely third party. So there are, if you go through the requirement, there are a few elements of independence written. Integrity. Actually, integrity is something which does not need to be defined. But our experience tells us that it needs to be defined. That you will test the sample the way it has been told that the testing has to be done, so that accurate result is there. And also, you will make the report after testing. See, I do a lot of training on 1725. I'm used to asking people, what do you need to create a laboratory? So people tell people, we need competent persons, we need equipment, etc. I tell them, ultimately, the output of a lab is only a piece of paper. So I need only a printer and a computer and a printer. So testing many times takes a lot of time. So people should not be tempted to shortcut or not do the job properly. So integrity, we actually thought of introducing it, reminding people that this is the first principle to be followed for conformity assessment. Ultimately, end result is a piece of paper. I can only say this piece of paper is okay or not okay after repeating the whole exercise. Otherwise, I have to take whatever is there, results are there. So we thought of putting this requirement to remind all conformity assessment people that this is what all of you who have chosen to be conformity assessment personnel, you have to follow this. Impartiality, also we have added some requirements so that no conflict of interest deters people from doing the job correctly. Structural requirement for writing the structure appropriately, especially those who are part of a larger organization. Then under resource requirement, we have expanded competence. That means for those 5 groups, we have given specific requirements. Now, requirements, we actually talk these days about competence. Competence is actually knowledge and skills to do the job appropriately. But there are precursors for that it's very difficult to judge competence. So there are precursor, that means educational qualification and years of experience in the field. So we have actually made a combination of the two, and we have added additional requirements. So that instead of leaving it to different laboratories to decide, and then maybe there's no consistency in results, we avoid by actually writing competence requirement. Facilities and environment condition, equipment, all would need to be appropriate to whatever test they have decided to do. Metrological traceability, when we do the assay or actually identify the drug in the formulation, we will need many times marker compounds. So that is some guidance is given from where can be taken. So small requirements under externally provided services means if people, if laboratories take person of contract, then what are conditions to be met, that has been specified. Then there are, okay. Now, see, the laboratory generally is supposed to be told by the customer what tests to be done. So that comes in the form of when a customer comes to a laboratory and says, I need to get this done. Then sometimes the customer says, I have no clue. So then there have to be a proper communication between the lab and the customer to be able to identify what tests are needed, especially for proprietary items, etc. And then based on whatever tests are required, selection of method, verifying whether the selected method is able to do the job you require, and in many cases validate the method to see whether now in residue analysis, especially if it is for some imported this thing, because the requirement is very low, then the laboratory will need to validate the method to prove that it can go up to that low level. So that all these three things, there are some additional guidance given. Management system requirements are well defined. Only in internal audits we have specified some competence criteria for the internal auditors, because then internal auditors don't know anything about AYUSH. Then they will not be able to actually do a proper internal audit. So some requirements are specified. So this is an additional document which has been created. Mr. Johri was talking about an AYUSH scheme. So AYUSH mark program. So for that, this has been provided. So this is what I need to share with you. I hope I have not taken. Any questions? I think questions are to be taken now. I've reached the end of my presentation.
Yes, we have 10 minutes. Excellent presentation, madam. We have 10 minutes. I would like to request next seminar speakers to cooperate with us for 10 minutes. Any question from any expert of the dais?
May I? Hello, may I?
Sure, sure.
Yes, yes. So thank you very much for the session. I am Namita Thakur from EnviroCare Labs. I would just like to ask Shobha madam a question. I just wanted to seek your guidance, wherein you mentioned that AYUSH competency requirements, there is a document which you would be coming up with.
Yeah, there's an additional criteria document which will be circulated shortly, I think.
Okay. And where would I get this? Like?
No, when it will be circulated, it will be available, I think, on AYUSH website. I don't know, Mr. Johri will be able to answer this.
No, certainly it will be on website of RAV, which is the secretariat of this working group right now, Rashtriya Ayurveda Vidyapeeth. We'll put it on the website certainly, and it will be circulated. Your boss is my, address book. So certainly he'll receive a WhatsApp copy also, but it will be on public domain. Yeah.
So thank you, Anil sir. Also, Dr. Nilesh just mentioned to me to be a part of this, since you, Shobha madam, and all of you are here. Thank you, really. And second question I wanted to ask was, you mentioned that is similar to 17025, but there are some additional requirements. So it would be
it's exactly 1725 with additional requirements. Wherever there are additional requirements, they will, in addition to what is given in 1725, they will apply.
Okay, so specific requirements related to AYUSH.
Yeah, related to AYUSH, because 1725 is very generic. So instead of leaving it to labs to decide, we decided to write in the writing.
Okay. And the accreditation standard would be ISO 170-000, correct?
No, 17025.
17025 itself. For
Yeah,
getting
maybe accredited
1725
against that.
1725 is to be implemented by labs and to be used by accreditation bodies to evaluate the lab. So it becomes accreditation standard also. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can think that your 1725 accredited laboratory, for getting this, you will need to apply those additional
requirements. Yes.
So just one question. I'm sorry, actually. We already have the AYUSH under our 17025 scope. AYUSH parameters, the wet chemistry parameters and physical chemical parameters. But then apart from this, to be recognized as an AYUSH accredited laboratory, we'll have to abide to the standard which you're saying, the standard which would be coming up, correct?
Yes. Shobha, let me answer that for a while. Two things. Number one, we are very clear that we would like an AYUSH lab to have certain minimum testing to be qualified as AYUSH lab. Not that you have 2 tests out of 100 and you say I'm an AYUSH lab. And therefore, those 5 groups Shobha has explained, you have to have complete testing as per that group, whichever group you opt for. You can opt for more than one. Okay. And secondly, the additional requirement document that she spoke of, which will be in addition to 1725, even though you have AYUSH in your scope, you will have to abide with some additional requirements, which we will specify. You will get time for that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. This gives clarity. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any other question from anybody?
Yes, I'm Manish, if I may.
Yes, sure.
So, sir, in the presentation of Shobha Madam, we were talking about the classical and the proprietary, formulations. So, while I understand, this working group wants to be quite specific in terms of the competency, specifically in terms of the lab test, the classical would have all the references in the classical text. What happens to the proprietary testing protocols? Will there be references, or there would be certain things that would define how it would be tested and what would be the way forward, so that the authenticity and the accuracy is maintained?
Shall I answer this?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is like this, Manish. See, currently, again, this is the knowledge I gained when I embarked on this journey, that APIs also do not cover all classical medicines. Okay, so there would be beyond that also. Now, for those, but API covers tests which are quite, what should I say, covering a very large this thing. So that's what I said. If it is given in API, and that sample goes to laboratory will be able to look at API and follow it. But if it is beyond, or it is proprietary, the specification is decided by the manufacturer. In both the cases, there will have to be some request for review. Request will have to be reviewed, in the sense there will have to be a dialogue between lab and the manufacturer. Manufacturer should be able to tell, these are the specifications, so I want it tested from here. Now, in case those tests are covered in API, then no issues. If they are not covered, then some guidance is given. Some standard methods will have to be followed by laboratory, which will need to be verified by lab if they are fit. And if they are totally lab generated methods, there is a provision for that. Then they will need to be validated by the laboratory.
So, madam, don't you think that I don't want to use the word complicated, but would that be in the scope of the labs to actually have some kind of an extra validation for their competence to do proprietary formulations? Will the working group be coming out with a chapter or a section on that?
See, actually the lab does testing as asked by customer. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, that I
So
understand. Yeah.
we will be it did cross my mind, but we will be actually crossing the limit of laboratory. What I would I had discussed with when we had a meeting on product Ayush product mark, that some modification is required in the product mark scheme only. Because see, I mean, proprietary medicine actually would also require a clinical trial.
Okay.
So some guidance it is best given in the scheme.
Yeah, because whatever brief understanding I have, so usually those tests needs to be also being coming under some scope of that lab, which would need to be somewhere, as you have already told, that some mechanism has to be devised by the accreditation body to allow them to be put in scope. So that is where the question has
Yeah.
come.
See, what would be needed by the lab is that they have capability to do proper verification validation. Because today you can't say. Now, for example, that product is being exported. Next, importing countries' requirement for, say, residue may be very, very elaborate and at much, much lower limits than currently in vogue. So, in those cases, the laboratory will need to actually, when under Ayush Mark labs are being accredited, then these aspects will need to be assessed in more elaborate form. So maybe we were thinking of having dialogue with accreditation bodies. That is a direction we would be giving to accreditation bodies.
Understood, madam. Thank you.
But on that, this thing, there may be a little bit of a problem. I mean, I do envisage that teething problems would be there. But see, today we don't even know what gamut we are covering. So we are not in a position to give proper directions.
Okay, a side comment, madam. Just because I also heard maybe Jory sir or